We're going to go ahead and start now by reciting the Namo Tassa and the three refuges for those who like to join. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami. Welcome, friends, to this Wednesday evening Dhamma session. And this week we are having the questions and answers session, starting on based on the SabassavaSutta. I hope most of you were able to reread or re-listen to the recorded video on the SabassavaSutta, all the taints that I had sent out in that link. So, first of all, there's a couple. Go over those first, try to answer them, and then if any questions come up to you while you're listening to that, or it could be some other Dhamma questions also. Don't necessarily have to be based on this sutta, that you can write them in the chat box. And then after we finish with these questions, or if there's any additional questions that might come up based on our discussion of these two questions, then they can also be asked. Okay? So, this one question is, how can we respond if we recognize a taint arising externally? Say, for example, we ask somebody a question and they answer with hatred or delusion. So, first of all, the SabassavaSutta is focused on about overcoming or removing the taints within our own mind. So when a defilement or a taint, that means any aspect of greed, hatred, delusion, and all the spin-off types of negative thoughts, when they are arising in our mind, to apply the appropriate remedy to be able to let go of that thought. So it's about removing the thoughts in our own mind. Now, of course, when you see the taints arising externally in somebody else, we can apply, now according to the Satipatthana Sutta, that you apply this mindfulness of the mind externally and internally and externally. So in the practice of the Satipatthana Sutta on Chittanupasana, in that instructions we're told to observe them externally. So if somebody else is talking with anger or hatred or greed, we can then simply say, this person has anger or greed in their mind. And we're able to know that because we know what anger or greed is arising with our own mind. So, but when we're, sort of in the instructions in the SabassavaSutta, yes, when we hear negativity externally, that triggers off our own defilements. So we might have aversion arising in our own mind or other disturbances. So naturally, we pay attention to those. So this person gives an example of that they were here on a retreat, and there was somebody behind this person, sitting behind the person, that happened to, he started snoring. Had gone to sleep, I guess, and started snoring. So this snoring noise triggered off some aversion in this person's mind. And then there was a person in front of him that was also making some noise, drinking water or moving around. Maybe it was restless, and they were making noise. So this person was being agitated from noises coming from behind him and the noises coming from in front. So he saw those as, external. These persons externally had their own defilements and they couldn't concentrate. So that caused some irritation in this person's mind. So we have to apply those the instructions given in the SabassavaSutta, where we would first notice those defilements coming up in ourself. And we have to observe the taint of annoyance or aversion. So that's using, and we have to restrain ourselves. So restraining, and then also removing. So the second and sixth of the steps in the SabassavaSutta are restraining our mind from indulging in this aversion. And we try to remove it by applying the right effort of, first we recognize this aversion and see the harmful effects that it has on our own mind. And it also, it increases our ego, or sense of, maybe the thought of I am, meditating and these people are, causing disturbances. So we reflect on that, and we can then, by reflecting on it that way, it may disappear, or if it keeps coming back, we can send them metta. So this person behind us that's snoring, we can have compassion for them. For some reason or other, they're having this sloth and torpor. And the person in front of them, they're being agitated by restlessness. We can know how we ourselves used to have these defilements. And so instead of letting that agitation grow in your mind, you apply these type of remedies to hopefully let go of that aversion or other connected thoughts that are arising. So that's how we have to, whenever we notice the defilements arising in us, if they're triggered off by some external stimulation, or they may be just triggered off from our own internal thoughts. So we have to understand that as it's arising, and then to apply whatever appropriate steps which are given in the SabassavaSutta. Now, in the SabassavaSutta, there's two aspects of overcoming the asavas, or the defilements. And there's four of these, there's seven of these sort of methods, you might say, in the SabassavaSutta. Four of them help to keep the negative thoughts arising in the future by preparing ourselves now. So, in our meditation practice, our studying the Dhamma, we're, preparing our mind and training it so when defilements come up in the future, hopefully we'll be in a better position to recognize them sooner and to cut them off from proliferating, much quicker, so we can then come back to our meditation subject. Now, these four ways of preparing the mind for overcoming the defilements in the future are the way of seeing. So, you remove the defilements by seeing. And the seeing means gaining insights, the insights that you get through your meditation practice, seeing the nature of how these defilements arise and so on. But it also, the seeing, removing defilements by seeing, actually only happens when we attain the stages of entering the stream, which actually destroy those particular fetters. And before that, before people reach that level of stream entry, whatever insights you get, this will help you to help prepare the mind for being more alert when things do arise. And then by using, so when we reflect on the requisites, so before using food and clothing and shelter and medicine, we reflect that we're using these things as a type of a medicine, and just to abide in relative comfort and ease, but not to get attached to things, not seeking out too much comfort and wanting everything perfect and so on. Not to get attached to these things, get addicted to them, but using them, using the basis of the middle path. And so by mindfully using things of the daily life, and just using them for their utilitarian purposes, but not getting attached to them, you can help to avoid certain defilements like greed, for example, that might arise for food in the future by preparing oneself, by mindfully reflecting before you use things. Then you're helping to make the mind more alert and aware when, the next time that you go out and, have greed for food or greed for any thing else. And then avoiding. So in those instructions, we avoid places that may stimulate our temptations. So if you have a certain weakness for things, you should avoid frequenting those kind of places. So if you have a weakness for alcohol, for example, then, avoid going into bars or other places where there's alcohol being served that may tempt you to want to, you won't be able to maybe help yourself, because people find themselves in this situation. So by preparing yourself, and also the precepts, following the 5 precepts is also a way of avoiding those unwholesome situations that might bring up these defilements. So we have precepts not to tell lies or to use the wrong speech. So by continually reminding yourself of the precepts, that helps to prepare your mind to be more mindful when that urge to tell a lie comes, or the urge to use some harsh speech. Or if you see your eyes going towards somebody else's partner or spouse, or somewhere where it shouldn't be, you have that. You can remember those precepts, and to help you let go of these types of indulgences. So, and then in developing the way of removing defilements by developing the 7 factors of enlightenment. So as we go on practicing our meditation, developing our meditation, and we're strengthening these factors of enlightenment, these will help you to be able to overcome the defilements that come up in the future more quickly and more skillfully. Now, so those are 4 ways of sort of preparing the mind for the future arising of defilements. But the ones that arrive in the present moment, the ones that are arising in the present moment, such as the example that this person has given in his own experience, then there's three ways of overcoming the defilements when they arise now. And that is by restraining. So you restrain yourself from reacting. Let's say you are in a conversation, and maybe a few people are talking in a conversation, and it triggers off some negative response in you or aversion. You restrain yourself from wanting to blurt out and say something back to a person, for example. So you restrain that urge to react on any strong emotion or impulse that comes into your mind. So you restrain yourself so that you'll be able to observe it and relax around it or reflect on it, so that you don't then do or say something that you would regret later. And also enduring. So we endure unwelcome speech. We endure like physical pains, for example, when we're meditating, enduring unpleasant sounds or sights by having patience. So you endure them by being mindful and by having patience and knowing that these things are impermanent and they'll stop, probably fairly soon. And so that enduring those disturbances helps to see that they're impermanent. A lot of times we don't want to endure it, so immediately we reach up to scratch and itch. But if you restrain yourself and endure and just be aware, okay, itching, it's not that bad. And then, you kind of just, even if it's kind of, a little intense, but you endure it and then it vanishes very quickly. And so, oh, yeah, it vanished. So I don't have to waste my energy in getting rid of this thing because it's going to vanish anyway if we just have patience and endure it a little longer before rushing into some unmindful reactions. And then the removing. So if these thoughts and emotions keep coming back over and over, to remove them by these various ways that I've just mentioned, and also substituting the thoughts. So like that example of somebody is irritating you and your aversion is arising towards some person, you can, instead of strengthening that aversion or justifying it, we can send metta to this person by thinking, well, this person, yes, they're doing this, but they have their own problems. Maybe they got up on the wrong side of the bed in the morning, or having a difficult time in their family. So, give them a break, Okay, he might have said something to me, but, and so send them metta, may this person be well and happy, free from suffering. So these are the ways of, of dealing with those defilements as they are arising. And this person, in their example also, they were saying that when the person behind them was snoring and the person in front of them was doing some other, unmindful actions, making noises, they felt that aversion in the beginning toward them both. But then he said, I recognized that focusing on the agitated person was giving me energy that canceled out the sloth and torpor. And then they started to practice metta arose in this person. And so then he was able to send out metta, as I mentioned, and then to overcome that negativity and then hopefully get back to his meditation object. So he was saying at the end, he says, I don't suppose that I can always rely on finding myself in such auspicious circumstances. So here he was in like a retreat, or it was a afternoon meditation. And so he was meditating with others. So he was in a better position to have that mindfulness and, not do something because, other people would probably notice it. But out there in daily life, when you don't have kind of conducive circumstances or having some supportive environment, then that's when, it's becomes, people find it more difficult to practice these removing of these negative types of thoughts. And now I'm going to go on to this second question. Or actually, before we go on to the second question, is any other questions come up based on this particular question and the answers that I was trying to give?
Yes. Yeah, I have a question based on, can I ask the example you just gave in the retreat? That happened all the time, right? Someone moving or make noise. Can I use that as an object for meditation?
Of course, because what we practice in retreat is, Veda, the four foundations of mindfulness, and observing our feelings is one of those. Whenever a unpleasant feeling arises, so that sound produces an unpleasant feeling in you. Somebody's coughing, somebody's making noise.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's an unpleasant feeling. So you have to recognize that that's causing the mind pain. That means that's an unpleasant feeling, giving a rise to these negative thoughts. Then based on the feeling, you conceive that, you start thinking about that person or situation, and then these aversion arises. So then and there, that's the time when we have to see that, because if we don't, we can get carried away in our thoughts and negativity and basically ruin our meditation or, make it more difficult. So then and there is when we have to practice these things. That's why we have to have the skillful means to employ, because most people, they get caught up in the motions, and if they haven't studied or contemplated how to deal with these, this is like a toolbox. This is like, our toolbox that we carry around with us. how to deal with these different unpleasant sensory stimulations and the thoughts arising in our own mind by applying these, restraining and by removing, reflecting on them. We can help to eliminate them. And then when they go away, we come back
To the breath, breathing. Yeah.
meditation object.
Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah, so, a lot of people, they say, well, I'm just practicing concentration. I just want to concentrate. Or I just want to be in the flow of the moment. Sure. But the problem is hindrances are always going to be coming up and challenges. So we can't just ignore them and just, try to keep coming back. We've got to deal with it in a skillful way. So it weakens the power. It weakens their power to grab our mind so strongly. So that's why mindfulness always precedes concentration. The Noble Eightfold Path, right mindfulness comes before right concentration. The spiritual faculties, mindfulness comes before concentration. 7 factors of enlightenment, mindfulness comes before concentration. That's because without mindfulness and the ability to let go of the hindrances or the fetters, we're not going to gain concentration. And that's how they are, they're interrelated in that.
Bhante, can we patiently wait for a little while and wake that person up?
Yes, you could have, maybe that person will wake up in another minute or two, or maybe they won't. And use that as a challenge to go deep within yourself and saying, look, why is this sound disturbing me? What am I clinging on to? Why, it comes back to the ego. I don't want it, or it's disturbing me. The source of all our suffering comes back to the clinging to the idea that these things are happening to me. I am these things, of these things, as we talked about the other week when we were studying the Mulapariyaya Sutta. Okay, here a question came up here on the chat. How long do you endure or have patience with abuse or discomfort before it becomes harmful? Well, I guess it would depend on the situation and what kind of abuse that it is. Whether it's, some person directly, in your presence, or it's some more distant related thing. It takes a lot of skill. But usually if people are abusive verbally, if you don't respond to them, like, with more aggression or so, then usually by not reacting to them, they will gradually kind of back off. And because people like that feedback, like somebody says something, then they're waiting for you to say something so that they can say something back, and you can get into verbal arguments, especially if there are arguments between people about one opinion against somebody else's opinion. These are very difficult to try to convince the other person that their opinions are right or wrong. And so in those situations, we try to, feel what our emotions are doing in the body, and also our thoughts, and just to have that, patience and endurance. And this person will get tired of talking to themselves without that feedback. And especially when people are heated up in an argument, it's very difficult to talk clearly and logically about something. You have to wait till the person calms down to some extent, and then try to, reasonably talk to them or try to, but when in the midst of a heated emotion, it's very difficult to talk any sense to anybody until they gradually calm down. So if it becomes harmful, we know that, it depends on, if it's creating more, aversion and harmful for your own mind, to get out of these situations if you can by avoiding. This is why one of those instances in this SabassavaSutta is avoiding people, certain types of people or places that may, bring up these strong emotions in you, or if a person is abusing you verbally and so on, then, stop, if at all possible, to, don't, associate so much with those persons. If at all possible, of course. Sometimes it's not that possible. But so that's why actually you see in these 7 ways of dealing with the defilements, the Buddha gives a lot of different options. The Buddha was very skillful, and he knew how things arise in so many different ways. So, removing things by using them, by reflecting skillfully, by avoiding, by restraining, by enduring, and by seeing, especially by developing the mindfulness and concentration and wisdom, developing the factors of enlightenment. So not just one of those things is going to stand alone, but those 7 ways would cover almost every type of scenario that you could probably get into in your daily life. So I want to go on to this next question, and then if there's time to take some other questions if they come up. So this next question that had been sent in was, when there is unwise reflecting and we kind of tolerate it, we allow it to happen. Let's say I have some negative reflection on something about a person or some situation, or maybe it's a fantasy, a sensual fantasy, or just indulging in, justifying why you're right and somebody else is wrong or foolish, and getting upset with them. Sometimes we like to indulge in these things because it kind of makes us feel good in some way. So this person is, so when there's this kind of unwise thoughts or reflecting coming up, and we tolerate them, we do not remove them. So then in that case, what is the next course of action? In other words, how do we move on without the interference of concepts or guilt or timidity or hesitancy? Do we stay in the now, take note and move on? Or do we ask for pardon from the triple gem? So I would say it's a little bit of all of those things. So, of course, we all do that from time to time because we're not perfect yet. So we might indulge a little bit in our, some kind of this unskillful types of thoughts. And we know it maybe not, right, but we sort of can't help ourselves, and we just, indulge it anyway. So, but once we've done that, we should then reflect and to acknowledge that, okay, I wasn't successful in, or I allowed myself to indulge in this, but knowing that it was unskillful and not let it to become a habit. In other words, to kind of make a determination not to repeat these things over and over, because that's how the habits get stronger. So we're all going to make mistakes once in a while, but That's why the asking for forgiveness is important, especially if you do it with a person, to ask for their forgiveness if you insulted a person or you somehow caused them irritation. You ask them for forgiveness, so you acknowledge that, or you forgive yourself for making this mistake. So you can forgive yourself also, but then you have to then make the determination to be more mindful in the future and not keep repeating it. Because just doing the same thing over and over and over again and keep on forgiving yourself, that also can just become a habit and not have any, not make any progress in actually overcoming these defilements. So, so, in our Vandana practice, in the devotional services or chantings that you might have participated in retreats and so on, one of them says, whatever, like, you might be in front of a Buddha image, or just, whatever faults I have done today by body, speech, or mind, may the Buddha forgive me, may the Dhamma forgive me, may the Sangha forgive me. So this is actually something that's good to do every night. In fact, the monks and so on, they do this every night in their devotional chanting as part of it. Even if we may think we didn't do anything, we do it anyway, just as a kind of a practice, because sometimes we might not think we did something unskillful, but because the ego can be very clever and kind of covering up our unskillful actions. So, whatever unskillful things I have done by body, speech, or mind, but we're addressing our own unconscious mind. We know that there's not a Buddha out there that's actually going to hear us and forgive us, but it's the inherent wisdom that's deep within our unconscious mind that we're sort of addressing. The Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, these are just levels of our own, what we call the internal Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. That means the internal Buddha is the inherent, intrinsic, natural wisdom that everybody has, deep within them. And then the Dhamma, also the natural laws and the laws of nature that are within our own mind too. And the levels of Sangha, that means the levels of the purification of the mind that are possible. But anyway, however you may want to, relate to that. But it's not that we're asking somebody outside of ourselves for forgiveness, but we're asking our own mind forgiving us for our unmindfulness, and then making the determination to not repeat that. So, but it's only until we've developed the 7 factors of enlightenment and then had those moments of seeing, that means like entering the stream, seeing that deep, that experience of no self, of that deep understanding about impermanence and no self, that goes deep into the unconscious mind and destroys those first 3 defilements of belief in a self and attachment to rites and rituals and doubts. And then as you go on and get these experiences again and reach the other levels of once returning, never returning, these are what are destroying greed and hatred. And then finally the last stages, which are destroying the deepest levels of ego and subtle clingings and ignorance. So it's only through the development that the 4 foundations of mindfulness, when we have those moments of seeing, that is where we permanently eradicate those defilements. Now, in the methods 2 through 6, these are what we do in between. or while we are trying to develop the 7 factors of enlightenment, this is when we have to apply the other steps so that, during our meditation practice, overcoming the hindrances and other negative sort of thoughts and restraining ourselves, that we can successfully then develop deeper levels of concentration. And then that helps us to have deeper levels of mindfulness and deeper levels of awareness, to notice these defilements sooner and quicker before they have triggered off all of our reactions and so on. So, but yeah, it doesn't do good to just, keep feeling guilty about what you've done. If you are making good, at least making an honest effort to weaken and gradually overcome these habits. Now, habits are very difficult to overcome. In just a few weeks or months or even years of Dhamma practice is not necessarily going to make all these strong habits and emotions that have been accumulating in the unconscious mind for lifetimes. It's in most cases, it's a long process, but it has to start now in the present with mindfully trying not to, repeat them over and over. Okay, so I see this is another chat question about should we step in when we see some abuse happening to other people? I mean, sure, during the day we're gonna, now and again see people abusing, like maybe some parents shouting at their children, or kids abusing each other, being cruel to each other, or so many situations we come across, seeing people fighting on the street, and seeing so many things. Now, if we step in and try to, overcome that, we might have a good intention, but it could cause you a lot of suffering in the future. So we have to be very careful when we try to step into somebody else's karma, because we don't know what is going to happen if we try to correct somebody else's behavior. Now, if it's with your own children and so on, then you probably have a more kind of moral authority to do that. But I'm just remembering one example. There was somebody who was living in the Bhavana Society for a long time, a lay person, and then they left after a while, and then we heard this person had been living in some other city, but then it came back to us that this person had been walking on the street or somewhere, but he saw a woman being kind of abducted or forcibly put into, some people trying to abduct her and put her in a trunk of a car or something like that. And this person, out of goodness of his heart, he wanted to intervene. But in doing so, he was shot in the leg and eventually had to get his leg amputated. And they abducted the woman anyway. I don't know what happened to her later, but I mean, this is just one. I mean, we hear about things like this happening all the time. So we have to be careful when we get into somebody else's karma in a direct way, trying to intervene, that what could happen. A lot of people don't want to be corrected, and it could lead to violent reactions to them. But sometimes it might help. We don't always know, so we can try our best according to our own abilities to, hopefully try to at least calm or reduce the intensity of certain types of, experiences, abuse, or other wrongdoings that we see happening around us in the daily life. But until we can have corrected ourselves first, then it's not much likely we're going to be successful in doing that to others. Okay, so anybody else have a question that they might want to bring up? Or any comments? But it's good to, that's why I like rereading these suttas and so on, to refresh the mind in these different ways that the Buddha had given for dealing with our defilements of our mind, because they're so deeply entrenched, and the ego is so very crafty and clever in coming up with so many ways to always want to justify, why we should indulge in this or indulge in that and so on. So, all these different 7 ways, it's like the Buddha covered all the bases that could, in any possible situation, he gave something that, might be useful to use to help to weaken the power of these defilements over ourselves. But, having the 5 precepts, living by the 5 precepts is one of the most powerful ways of restraining. So that second step of restraining oneself is the 5 precepts are a part of that. So by always reminding ourselves of these type of things that, we don't want to indulge in these types of behaviors, to have to repeat them over and over and over again. So when the urge comes up, we'll remember them very quickly, and then hopefully have the ability not to indulge it to the point of creating more unskillful karma. Okay, so friends, if there's no other questions, then we can then take a few minutes break, and then come back and have our, do a few stretches just to get the energy moving in the body. So hopefully you won't, maybe fall asleep and snore during the next meditation. Hopefully, if you're at home alone, and then no one might be affected by it. But anyway, okay. So we'll come back in a few minutes, and then. Relax your arms at the sides. Close the eyes and feel your feet pressing the floor. And try to mentally feel the outline of the standing body, and then begin some deep, slow breathing. Taking a few seconds to expand the abdomen, rib cage, and upper chest. Hold the air in the lungs 2 or 3 seconds. And feel the relaxing contractions of the out breath, and the last bit of air go out of the lung. Just take a few more deep, slow breaths, cultivating this mindfulness. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, standing here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, standing here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. And we'll go ahead and begin these movements, coordinating them with the same breathing, repeating each one 3 times. So on the next in-breath, raise the arms over the head, interlock the fingers, turn the palms up, straighten the arms, stretch the hands up, look at the back of your hands. On the out breath, turn the palms down, touch the top of the head. In breath, palms up, straighten the arms, stretch the head back, bend back a little bit. Out breath, touch the top of the head. The third time, hold that upward stretch longer. Bend back a little more, stretch upward. And release the fingers on the out breath, arms back to the sides. Relax. Keep feeling your hands and fingers. Feel the increased sensations or pulsations in the hands and fingers. If you can't feel that, feel your feet pressing the floor. Just remind yourself of standing, the present moment of the body, standing and breathing, just letting go of your thoughts. On the next in breath, push up on the toes while raising the arms over the head in this way, facing the hands toward each other and stretch. Out breath, come back down. Use the in breath to help lift up the body. In breath. Stretch. Out. The third time, try to hold the upward stretch longer. Out. Relax. Gently close the eyes. So just feel the eyes and the sockets. From that point behind the eyes, try to feel the outline of the standing body, all the subtle vibrations, and the sensations of the clothing touching the outer skin, or any of the subtle pulsations under the skin, any aches or pains. Grounding the awareness in the body, getting out of your head into the body, standing. Okay, next we'll do side bending using both arms. So on an in-breath, raise both arms up. And keep your fingers and the arms straight, close to the head. On the out-breath, bend over the right side as far as you comfortably can. You keep the fingers and arms parallel to each other like railroad tracks. In-breath, lift up. Then to the other side on the out-breath. Feel the stretch in the side. In-breath up. Again to the right, out-breath. In. Out. In. Once more to each side, out breath to the right. In. Out. In breath, lift up. The out breath, lower the arms. Close the eyes, relax. Feel that increased pulsation in the fingers and hands. And just any other body sensation. Try to feel the outline of the standing body. Standing. 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 You now spread the feet apart about 3 feet. We'll do twisting from right to left. Breathe in. On the out breath, twist to the right. Keep your eyes focused on the hand going back. And keep your balance. In breath, come back to the front. Let the feet turn with the body and then go to the other side with the next out breath. In breath, front. Again to the right, out breath. In. Out. In. Once more to each side. And relax. Just feel each foot pressing the floor. Don't give the mind time to wander in thoughts. The body is always right here and now. It's the anchor for the wandering mind. The more of the body and sensations you can notice, less time for your mind to get lost in unnecessary thought, unskillful thought. Now we'll do forward and backward bending, keeping the legs apart. The wider, the better. Let the hands touch the front of the legs and breathe in. On the out breath, bend forward, but keep the head up, looking out straight ahead. Try to flatten the spine. Let the hands come to the knees. Keep the arms and the legs straight. And flatten the spine. In breath, lift up. Move the hands under the buttocks for support and carefully let the head go back. Breathe out. Not too far. In breath, lift up. And next out breath, let the hands come down below the knees about halfway. So keep the legs straight, keep the head up, and flatten the spine. Feel the stretch in the back of the leg. In breath, lift up. Get the back bend, out breath. Try to bend back a little more. In breath, lift up. On the out breath, let the hands come down as far as you can toward the feet. Still keeping the head up. And hold that position longer. Feel a stretch in the back of the legs, the hamstring muscle. And breathe in, lift up. Then just relax. No, actually, one more time, the back bend. The in-breath, come up. And the out-breath, just relax. Feel the whole body exactly as it is. Each foot pressing the floor. Clothing touching the skin of the legs. Hands touching the legs. Arms at the sides. Clothing touching the torso, chest, the head balanced on top. Sort of mentally feel that outline of the body, the mind's eye. Remembering standing, feeling all those, that increased life force sensation. Now bring the legs back together. Just one last simple exercise, the head turning from right to left. So standing straight on an in-breath, turn the head to the right. Look over your right shoulder. On the out breath, turn 180 degrees back to the left and look over the left shoulder. If you have a stiff neck, just be careful. In breath back to the right. Concentrate into the neck vertebrae. Imagining, feeling them loosening up. Out breath, left. In breath, right. Out breath, left. On the in breath, let the head stop in the center. Again, just feel the whole body. Try to feel that outline of the standing body, the mind's eye. Okay, so let's come back to our seats and get ready for the sitting awareness. Try to feel the right and the left buttock pressing the seat. Mentally feel the way the legs and the knees are bent, the lower legs and the feet tucked under the body, they're touching the floor. Just feel that whole bottom part of the body pressing the floor. And just remember sitting, sitting. The present moment of this body sitting here and now. And feel your hands and fingers touching together, or where they touch your legs. Just feel the subtle sensations in the hands and fingers. Feel the weight of the arms hanging from the shoulders. Relax the shoulders. Just feel where the clothing touches the skin of the shoulders or arms or chest. And then just remember sitting, sitting. And feel your head balanced on top of the neck. And keep the chin level, parallel with the floor. Feel the lips touching together. Try to feel those subtle sensations in the lips, the dryness or moistness of the lips. Feel the tongue in the mouth where it may touch your teeth. And feel the nose. Now rest the attention on the eyes. Feel the eyes resting in the socket. And the eyelids stretched over the eyeballs. Sort of just gaze on the eyeballs. Try to feel the subtle vibration. And the eyelids stretched over the eyeball. From that point behind the eyes, feel all the different sensations in your head, on your face. Sensations of the skin stretched over the skull. The prickling sensation. The lips touching together. Still kind of maintaining that focus behind the eyes, let the awareness expand downwards. Feel the shoulders, arms, buttocks, legs, and feet. Just try to feel that outline of the sitting body. Just try to hold that outline of the sitting body, kind of silhouette in the mind's eye. And just remember sitting, sitting, sitting. This body here and now. And then begin some deep, slow breathing as we did in the yoga session. Take 2 or 3 seconds to expand the abdomen, rib cage, and upper chest, holding the air in 2 or 3 seconds to allow or feel oxygen in the lungs going out in the bloodstream. And feel the relaxing contraction of the out breath. Feel the last bit of air go out of the lung. Just try to take a few more deep, slow breaths like that, cultivating this mindfulness. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. Now we're going to count the breaths from 1 to 10 to try to develop a more continuous concentration on the breathing. So if you can, continue to take some deeper breaths to help concentrate. With the next expanding in breath, mentally count to 1. Feel the brief pause. Contracting out breath, also count to 1. Feel the last bit of air go out of the lung. The next in breath, 2. Out breath, 2. In breath, 3. Out breath, 3. In breath, 4. Out breath, 4. In breath, 5. Out breath, 5. In breath, 6. Out breath, 6. In breath, 7. Out breath, 7. In breath, 8. Out 8. In 9. Out 9. In 10. Out 10. Now discontinue the counting, let the breathing return to its uncontrolled or shorter, irregular rhythm. Continue to follow it, continue to feel it. All the little subtle expanding and contracting sensations. Sort of feel like you're looking down through a microscope, like a scientist looking through a microscope. Feel those subtle sensations of the clothing rubbing against the skin of the stomach, rib cage, your chest as it expands and contracts. Just knowing when the breath is coming in and knowing when the breath is going out. You know it by feeling it, feeling those subtle sensations. Try to feel the 4 phases of each breath cycle. The expanding in breath and the brief pause. The contracting out breath and the brief pause. Just over and over and over If it helps to stay focused, concentrated, make these mental rememberings, just in, sitting, out, out, sitting. It's that ongoing, continuous connection in the present moment, in this breathing body. In, sitting, out, out, sitting, breath by breath, moment by moment. Noticing all the subtle movements, sensations, that breathing process. Turn up the power of the mental microscope. Bring it into clear focus. In, sitting. Out, out, sitting. Those brief pauses between the breaths. Feel that outline of the sitting body. This breathing process is going on within the larger sitting body. Just try to notice how each breath is different. Sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. Sometimes you feel it more in the abdomen, sometimes you feel it more in the chest. It's always changing. The pauses between the breaths also, sometimes longer or shorter. But at the same time, be alert for thoughts sneaking up into the mind or other distractions. If you see the mind, the thoughts, the distractions, you don't get lost into them, just let go of them, they vanish. That's removing the defilements by seeing, by very alert mindfulness. In, sitting, out, out, sitting. It's restraining the mind from going out to think about the past or future. Keep it fixed in the present moment of the breathing process. We restrain the mind by developing concentration. Mind can't observe the breathing and wandering thoughts at the same time. If you lose the breathing, you get lost in the thought. Any pains arise or any other annoying sounds or distractions, just endure them with patience. They'll change and vanish. Stay with the breathing. In, sitting. Out, sitting. Just keep turning up the power of the mental microscope. Notice, feel more and more pure physical vibration of the breathing body. Even while noticing the breathing, you'll be able to just notice other sensations coming and going in the background. Sounds coming and going in the background. That continuous connection to the breathing acts as the anchor for the mind, to restrain the mind from going outward. Be alert for any urges to move. Endure that irritating sensation, desire to move. Just relax around those sensations. In sitting, out sitting. All other sensations or sounds or thoughts are just momentary phenomenon coming and going through that breathing awareness, breathing body awareness. Anytime the mind has too many thoughts or sleepy, then come back and take a few deep, slow breaths. Re-energize the nervous system. Get re-grounded in the body. Any sounds distract the attention, just note that, just hearing the sound vibrations coming and going within that breathing body awareness. In sitting, out sitting. Connection to the breathing body is the mind's natural connection to the present moment awareness. We lose that connection to the breathing body. The mind gets easily pulled or distracted into past and future thinking, desires, aversions, worry, fears, anxiety. Connection to the breathing body is the natural anchor or the lifeline, the natural present moment awareness. It's the natural vibration of consciousness. Everything else, the five aggregates, the six sense stimulation, they're just momentary vibrations coming and going through that present moment awareness. That's the seeing with wisdom. If you have good concentration and awareness, start to become like an empty house with nobody home to answer the calls knocking on the doors and windows. There's just a sensitive microphone in the house that knows but doesn't know, cannot react. This breathing body is like the empty house. Things are just coming through the doors and windows, going in one door, out the other, and one in window, out the other, without sticking inside. Like the wind blowing through. Letting go of the known, letting go of the knower. Just allowing the pure present moment knowing to emerge. That's overcoming the defilements by seeing. Seeing the impermanence and essential emptiness of all the five aggregates, including the knower. Sabbe sankhara anicchati yada panyaya pasati altane bindati dukkhi esamaggo visuddhiya. Dukkha patta ca nidukkha bhaya patta ca nibbaya soka patta ca nisokha hontu sabbi pipanino. All conditioned things, the five aggregates of this body, mind, and world are impermanent. They arise only to last momentarily and pass away. When one sees this with the eye of wisdom, one becomes disenchanted with suffering. This is the path to purity, to freedom. And may the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. In this way, may all beings live with mindfulness and wisdom. And thus spoke the Buddha. Now I invite you to join in chanting the word sadhu 3 times, slowly with the long out breath. Take a deep breath. Sadhu. 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 Now place the hands at the edge of the knees. Take one more deep breath. Breathing in, stretch the head back, pull the hands against the knees, arch your lower spine. And lift the head up on an in-breath. On the out-breath, press the chin to the top of the chest, stretch the neck vertebra. Lift the chin up level on an in-breath. Relax on the out-breath. Put a smile on your face. Okay, friends. So this brings our evening meditation, Dhamma discussion and meditation to an end. And hope you can remember, reread the sutta again, on removing all the defilements, the 7 different ways. During the next week, try to practice some of those by avoiding unseemly places or people that could agitate your mind. learning to develop your mindfulness, practicing the M&Ms, to pause, and be able to ground the mind in the present moment, bring back your Dhamma understandings. Okay? So, wish you all the best during the week. And don't forget, mindfulness a day keeps dukkha away. And
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
You're all very welcome, but the best
Namo Buddhaya.
things is to
Thank you,
practice.
Bhante.
Thank you.
So
Thank you, Bhante.
next Sunday or so, I'll try to send out the next video to re-listen to for a subject of our next week's questions and answers. All right? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Good
night.
night, everyone.
Good night, Bhante.
Good night.